Do you have anybody on Zoom yet?
Yeah, we have Mitch the Great joining us.
Wow.
I don't know, whoever Mitch the Great is.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great. Well, remind me to ask if there's any public comments from the Zoom attendees.
Okay.
Yeah. Dan might be a little bit late. He's waiting for his wife to come in. Might be 10-15 minutes late.
Oh, well, that's not good.
The clock is behind them. It's late. Yeah. 59.
Packer games there.
So let's make this quick.
You have to DVR the first quarter. Yeah. All right, it is 7 o'clock. I will call the public hearing to order. We'll do the pledge after we get there. The public hearing is to air the questions on the Fredonia's general funds, capital projects, debt service, fire department budgets, and TID number 3 and sewer and water utility budgets. Any comments on that? You can just talk to them. Yeah, probably go to Mike.
That's true, yeah.
Hey, Dan, on your way through. What? Oh, can you, hey, Dan, can you check the microphone? Yeah, sure. Well, we're gonna be. Oh.
I don't like talking. So Mitch the Great. I guess the only thing that I want to say about the budget is speaking on behalf of the people that live in Fredonia. In a year of 40-year high inflation, when families are struggling to heat their homes, fill up their gas tanks, put food on the table, a 23, or even if it's less than that, 20-something% tax increase. I feel bad for them. So that's all I had to say.
Okay, any other comments?
I'm Rudy McCormick. I live over in Fox Glen. I appreciate all the work that you guys do. You come in here and you make decisions and you vote on things and when I heard about the budget and read the budget, initially it was like, oh my God, more money going out the door. Why? Right? Why? Why again? For the last 6 years, my tax bill's gone up. More than once, more than twice. I guess. I put a forum out there and asked for people to provide feedback to me about this. And I didn't get many responses, honestly, and that's a little bit disappointing. But we are a small town, we're a small community where people don't get it. People don't show up here and fight for their rights because they don't know what to do or what to say, or even what's being voted on here. My concern is that this level of spending that's been going on for years now doesn't seem to let up. Don, I appreciate your time on the phone today, and you really did enlighten me on how this is all going down. And my question to you guys is the same as all the responses I got from the forum I had out there, and that is, in this economy with all this uncertainty, where does this end? Where does this spending end? Where does the increase of our tax bills end? And I would say that I have one request of this group. And being the person that I am and donating my time in the past, helping to recodify the village and things like that, I would respectfully ask that when you guys vote on this, that you do a roll call vote so that people know who's voting to raise their taxes. Might be $125, might be $150, might be $200, but whatever it is, this spending spree you guys are on has got to come to an end. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions pertaining to the budgets?
What is it being, what, as you said, spending spree?
Would you mind coming up to the microphone? I know, we just, yeah, people, I'm sorry.
As a note, our guest, Mitch the Great, is working those on us.
I Mitch the Great.
Okay,
I just wonder, what's the spending? Yeah. I mean, I don't own a home, but I feel bad for the people that do,
mhm.
and like she said, trying to, gas in your car, groceries and whatever. I don't see any improvements in town. So is it your salaries? Is that what taxes are going up for? Is it for the new village administrator? Is that why? That's my question.
Well, we had a number of people who no longer work for us, key employees that we're replacing with other soon to be key employees. So that spending would have happened. It's just paying someone else now. We're adding a public works worker, which will be a fourth member of the public works team, which we needed. We were short one for a number of years. And other than that, there's not a lot of unusual spending going on.
Mr. President, I would defer to our administrator, I guess, to answer that question or answer any questions in regards to that.
Sure. Well, the question that was asked is very broad. But if you're asking, I don't know if you've seen a copy of our budget or a notice or anything. The previous year's mill rate was $5.21. So it means for every $1,000 of value of your property, the village collected just for the village portion, $5.21. What's being recommended is $6.52 is the change. So again, for every $1,000 increase or value, $6.52 is what's getting collected. The biggest change is on the income side. What kind of to give you municipal government 101, when we every year when we're preparing for this time, in order to determine how much money we collect, we fill out what's called the municipal levy limit worksheet. On that worksheet, it separates two different amounts of money that we can collect. One is the general levy, which is the amount that the state calculates and said, this is how much you're allowed to collect. It typically only goes up by net new construction. So if a lot of new construction happened in the community, right, that increases the amount of money we can collect. So that went up very, very, very slightly. So there's a couple $1,000s extra getting collected there. But then the other big change is within the debt levy. So that means whatever principal and interest payments you're paying on long-term loans, then typically gets allocated in that debt portion. What was happening in the past, and not to say it was wrong, but what was happening is only a portion of those principal and interest payments were getting covered. And then the rest of the principal and interest payments were getting paid out of that general pool of money. So the decision of this body, and what's getting recommended is that the full principal and interest amount of money gets thrown on top of the general levy. So it's a general levy amount the state can say that we can collect. And then there's the debt levy piece, which equates to, what is it? $250,000 there. And that's an increase from the 80,000 that was previously getting collected. So that's the biggest change that's impacting the tax rate. And then those monies on the expense side, as the village president said, there's not really many new expenses. It's the same, like my salary you pointed to is just getting swapped out for a previous person who was here. So that's not really impacting the overall budget, but the addition of another public works person is. So that's a good point there too. Other than that, I mean, there's not really any unusual spending besides bringing things budget to actuals and items like that.
Do you guys raise taxes every year? I mean, our property taxes raised every year.
So there's a page in our budget that shows from 2018 to the current year, and that's actually been very stable. It's been about 5.1, 5.2 every single year since 2018. So it's been that same stable. So I have.
Yeah, the big, I'll expand on that just a little bit. We have two ways that we collect general property tax. One is called the property tax levy, which is based on the assessed value of all the property in the village multiplied times mill rate, which you're explaining. Another way, the other way we have to collect levy money for the village to collect is debt levy. Now, when you say, well, the good faith and credit of the village is put up as collateral to borrow this money, that comes from our ability to levy through the debt levy the principal and interest dollar amounts of all outstanding debt that need to be paid in that year. We can levy that total. And all that money can be used for is to pay those debt payments and interest payments. When you underreport your debt total, you can only recover what you report your debt is, and the rest of it has to be paid out of the general fund. Because we got to pay it out of something. Now, instead of having $850,000 in general fund, which is basically our operating budget, if you don't levy for $140,000 worth of debt payments, that reduces the amount of money you have to run the village by that $140,000, because you have to pay those debt funds out of the operating budget, out of the property tax levy. So that snowballs. You have an effect where if you want to buy a truck, you have to borrow money to buy a truck, and it costs you $120,000 with interest instead of buying it for $100,000 with levy money. And that snowballs. Things cost more, and we can do less with the amount of money we collect for the levy. It's kind of convoluted, but it's simply math. You either get it through debt levy and pay it out of that fund and not disturb your operating money, or you underreport your debt and you have to disturb the money that you would spend on operations for the village. And that's probably as clear as mud, but that's at least what we get to.
Raising theirs 3%, the village is 25.7%. The city of Port is 1.8%. Grafton and Saco are not available because common server is down. But the town of Fredonia is 10, and the village is 23, so.
It's actually, it's actually 15%.
Yeah, our property tax levy portion of the money we levy from the people went up by, what was the percent on that? It was like less than 1%.
It says right there, it's just 1%.
It's 1%. That went up 1%. The lion's share of the increase is in the debt levy, which was underreported for a number of years.
It's also fairly new debt. I mean, your ones on your roads, I believe they're like 2021, something like that. So that's why they're coming to. I'm just asking city of comments.
Hello.
Hi there. If I've been reading correctly through the budget and stuff, the change is gonna be 23%. And when you look at payroll, it's 23% of a change there. I understand that the village recently hired a new administrator assistant, I believe the title is. When Northern Ozaki had a expansion project that raised this village's taxes, there was a referendum and the village people had a say in if the taxes were gonna raise or not. The majority said yes, and taxes went up. I was just wondering if you as a board could share the process behind how we hired a new administrative assistant. Thanks.
Well, anybody want to grab that one?
I mean, this is just reserved for public comment. So I mean, this is something we take public, so how is, Shouldn't be saying it's not. No, so for public comment, how it works usually is we take public comment. So like we can take this information and say, thank you for bringing our attention. We can write something up. We can get your name, phone number, address. We can write something up, call you. Thanks, man. But public comments made where we listen to the public and we don't really have a back and forth. It's not necessary debate. This is an open forum for you guys to bring up anything that you wish to the board, and then we just take it and then we can respond formally from there. So we can take this as a note, and Melissa can take this as a note, get the information.
This is
Well, then I'll add something on it and say, I just want you guys to think about that while you vote tonight. As the village doesn't really have a say in this, but they were able to have a say when our taxes were increased in the past.
Well, I'd like to apologize, but that's not exactly true. This is a public hearing, not public comment. And the restrictions that you talked about don't exactly apply to a public hearing. The reason a public hearing is established and we're having one is to have questions asked, answers given, understandings made between the people that bother to come to the public hearing. So we can answer your questions when they're asked and whatever during the public hearing. Public comment, that's limited to 5 minutes, and that's just getting the information and says, okay, we'll consider that, blah, blah, blah. As far as your question, why we didn't have a public hearing, is that what you were getting at?
No, I
Or
was
what the
wondering if
process?
you could share like the process, of it. Like when taxes were increased in the past, it was very clear and the village got to vote on it, but I never really heard about anything, and then all of a sudden I heard that the village hired a new administrator.
Yeah, that didn't have an effect on the budget, on the operating budget, because if Roger would have stayed the whole year, we would pay him the whole year. Roger left, and we're paying Chris for doing that job, a similar amount. So that's kind of the same thing. That's a wash. The thing that demanded us to raise the 23%, it was probably more like 22% because the property tax levy was 1%, was the fact that we went from a debt levy of $82,000 to a debt levy of $251,000, because we gathered all of the general fund debt into the debt levy, so that we would pay that all with money levied for that purpose alone. So we could not have to bother the property tax levy, which are our operating funds. We'd have the money to do what we budgeted to do during that year. We didn't have to rob from that fund to pay the bills. It's like a mortgage. It's an account to pay principal interest for outstanding debt. Yeah,
Okay, you were asking about the people. There currently are 3 people on the DPW crew. Roger spent about half of his time doing that also, so that's 3.5 people. About 4 years ago, we had another person who was no longer employed by the building at the sewage plant, so we have to take care of the sewage plant yet, and we didn't have enough people. Now, Christopher, he's 70% or 60% paid by the village. The other portion of his salary is make 100% town. So he's not. The village, he's a full-time village employee sort of, but the town is reimbursing us for portions of the salary.
And I think just to answer your referendum question, so a referendum would be needed, let's say this body wanted to exceed that general levy, that amount that the state says you're allowed to collect, then you're right, then they would have to go out to a referendum to ask you as the taxpayers, hey, can we collect more money than what that's getting allowed? In this case, again, that number isn't really changing, it's the debt levy that's changing, and that's what's impacting the number. And that's why it doesn't have to go to a referendum. See if there's any more comments.
And the other thing that my people may not know is the ambulance is working on my medic. But that's not really part of this budget for 2 years, because that's part of the grant program with the county. So after the 3 years are out, the grant is used up, then we'll have to. Raise. Just so if people don't know that.
There is the revenue is going to be generated by that program also.
Any other public
okay,
hearings?
any other questions or comments? All right, before I close the public hearing, the process is that all questions and whatever having to do with the budget should be asked and answered during the public hearing. Once we get to the point where we're dealing with it on the board level and having our debate with it up here, we won't be taking questions or comments from the audience at that time. Okay, so is there any other question? All right, then I will call the public hearing to a close. And
Just a point of order, I think you need a motion in the public hearing.
to close the public hearing?
Yeah.
Oh, we've never done it that way.
Well, you
Okay.
should be. Yeah.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make the motion, to close the public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? You get that? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. So, okay, next order of business is to call the village board meeting to order and recite the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome. Next point is the consent agenda, which is the bills and the minutes. There is an additional bill. Yeah, Melissa passed out an additional list of bills. It comes to $30,741. Y'all have a copy of that.
Motion to approve consent agenda with additional bills. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the bills and minutes with the addition. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Now, public comments. limited to 5 minutes, and we will hear anyone's comments and take them under consideration. Yes, ma'am.
So at the November 3rd Village Board meeting, item 6A on the agenda was referring to standing committees, and it was deferred to the December 1st meeting. So eliminating the Personnel Committee and the Economic Development Committee. One thing I noticed in ordinance 134-2, parent C2, it says that all trustees must chair at least one standing committee. So if removing those two committees, Bill in your position and Josh wouldn't be chairing a committee. So I thought I'd just point that out.
Yeah, we're gonna address that.
Okay. And then the other thing was the resolution that was also deferred to December 1st, where it talks about wages for village president and trustees. And I know Josh said he didn't necessarily agree with the numbers. $2,000 per year for trustee and $6,000 per year for village president. If a trustee attended each village board meeting at $55, plus if they attended 27 committee meetings, that would equal $2,000. And the village president makes $37.50 plus his committee meetings. So the way that proposal is, these people would be getting paid more than what they're getting paid now. And I thought the whole point of having the administrator was to cut back on the work that everybody does. So just something to consider. And I think that's it.
Well, those two figures represent the status quo.
Well, I'm just saying what the rationale was and multiplying things out. So doesn't need to be debated. Just think about it, please.
Thank you.
That was, those numbers were raised by averaging historical check.
Keep going.
All right. Okay, any other questions? Mr. Watson?
Ken Watry. I had something come before the planning commission. But I wasn't able to make it, so that's my own fault, but a number of things have been said. What I'm trying to do or thinking of, I had some vehicles for sale. They may not have been the great condition and stuff like that. I understand that. Let's put that behind. Moving forward, I may have some of my own that are titled to me that are more classic car related. And I might even have some that I might have an individual who has a dealer's license, and I'm wondering if we can put those vehicles on the business lot that I have. I don't think there's a number to it, but the apartments are 155 Fredonia Avenue, so I'm thinking that's going to be like 151 or 153. But anyways, on that vacant lot there, which is a B something or other, years ago when it was bought from 50 till mid-50s until 1991. It was used as display for agricultural equipment, tractors, trailers, wagons, plows, manure spreaders, all this kind of stuff. So there is and that was my father. So it's now still in the family, myself and my sister. And I would like to be able to sell some vehicles off of that lot. And I know the planning commission discussed it a little bit, and I was told it was rejected. And there were some things brought up at that time that the village planning commission should revisit and dive into, because some of that information I was given was erroneous. And therefore, a precedent has been set in this village that, and I don't want any negative, none whatsoever. This is the last thing I want to happen, because I like having Jimmy B's here. I'm not saying anything negative to Jimmy B's, but his granting of him to be able to sell cars on 2 lots he owns, 2 separate tax ID numbers. One of them is a vacant lot sets a precedent for any vacant lot. So I mean, I'm just saying, I would like to be on the agenda for the next planning commission so that we can revisit that because there are some holes in there. And I think there's a precedent been set. And I'm trying to say, I just want to be treated like another entity in the village. No preferential, nothing like that. I just want to be just the same as nobody should be preferential. And therefore, and the last thing I want is do not say, we can't give it to Ken. So we're gonna have to pull it from Jimmy B's. Do not do that. I'm here to say, do not do that. Get me mad, get me angry. Let me go out there and tell that everybody on the board is a bunch of woo-has, but do not take it from Jimmy B's, because that is the last thing I want. Okay? All right, so I just want to be on the agenda for the next planning commission. No special one needed, just whenever it is.
In the report from the planning commission, there's information that you and I discussed. that
Yeah.
I can discuss it later on in the agenda tonight.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hang around and you
I
guys,
don't know if we've
if
got
it's-
that specific
if it's
thing.
late, do not do it. If it's late, because when you get near the end, you want to just go home. You know, and I understand that. And I got time to go through the process because it is winter and none of those cars are coming out till spring.
No, as per your request, we can put you on the next.
Yeah, that'd be great.
planning commission Agenda and discuss it out.
That'd be perfect.
I do want to bring up something.
Yeah, yeah,
Later on.
that's fine.
All
I
right,
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, John.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
Now I gotta go out. Yeah.
Have a good night. All right, hearing none, we will call the public comments to a close. And we will move to report operation of village by village president. I have something in particular to announce. I will be not running for village president this next time around. I will be running for village trustee instead. I have learned of an individual who will be running for village president that I will be endorsing wholeheartedly. And that person wants to announce at his own time. So I will allow him to do that. But I'm looking forward to working alongside of this person. So I will let that person let you know his particulars or her particulars, whichever it is, when the time comes. That's all I have to report, village administrator.
Sure, I have my report in the packet, but I can summarize it for you. First off, we thank you to our clerk treasurer, her and the team did a great job on election day. We had a little bit 80% turnout. It was crazy. A lot of people coming in and out. We were able to hold a safe and secure election. So huge shout out to them. Let's see, we continued a lot of conversations with your commercial real estate agent, Jim Larkin, and then working with trustee Gerke on economic development stuff, a lot of which we'll discuss later on in this meeting. We drafted out RFP proposals for the engineering services. The deadline for those is the beginning of December. And so it should come to your first December village board meeting for review after we give a recommendation. We went through the hiring process for a DPW superintendent, which we'll be discussing a little bit as well. And then finally, we obviously discussed a lot with each and every one of you about various parts of the budget that we'll be finalizing tonight as well. And I guess I'll also use this opportunity to introduce myself because it's the first full meeting I've been able to attend. So my name is Christoph Jenkins. I'm honored to serve as your new village administrator. So thanks so much for having me.
All right, any questions of the administrator's report? Hearing none, I'll move on. Village marshal has a report in the packet.
They lost already?
If anyone goes out the doors onto the parking lot,
It's slippery.
sheer ice. And if you get in your car, you may end up across the road. So this is one caution.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Be able to slide over.
That- I'll just say that the marshal's report was in your packet for
So no questions on the marshal's report. I will move on to fire chief. Fire chief has two things to approve.
Well, that'll be later on in the agenda.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, is that in the action items?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, that will be later on the action items. Public Works Water Treatment Plant report is in the packet. Any questions on that? Hearing none, we have clerk treasurer's report. That's in the packet also.
Like Chris said, election day went great. We did get, couple residents come in and compliment me that they were out the door when they got here, but it took them 7 minutes to get to our line. Where they had to there's that. My workers.
I'm gonna move the mic.
That's a good thing, but.
No.
We had no problems. We had 1,117 orders. 88 registration that day, 148 absentee ballots. And we had no problems at the end of the night, so, and no problems when I checked out at the county, so. It went great.
And how many write-ins?
We don't want to talk about write-ins. 'cause they're
Mickey
silly.
Mouse and none of the above, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
Dozens of them.
and now we're gearing up for audit. And it's always busy in my office. Always lots to do.
I can confirm what that Susan said. I was similar situation, not quite out the door, but I was in. Everything was just so smooth.
Thank you. We had a good team. I have very good coworkers. They know what they're doing, so. I give kudos to them.
All right, any questions of the clerk? Okay, district supervisor report.
Yep, so public, the only thing I've got to update right now, public safety is going through the process of interviewing for a new medical examiner. We, I don't know if many were aware, but we got rid of the coroner position, everyone to a medical examiner position, so we're in the process of interviewing right now, and it's down to 2 candidates, so we'll be making a decision here soon and continue to move forward from there.
All right, any questions of supervisor? Thank you. Report from planning commission. That report is in the packet. We talked to Jim Lundberg regarding the Dollar General store, and we approved his list contingent on a punch list of things that he has to satisfy. He recommended approving a variance to a committee that doesn't need to approve that. The commission can approve that variance by itself. So based on the recommendation to approve, we will address this in a particular way at the next commission meeting. But for now, we'll consider that it probably will be granted by the commission. So also the lot division on the main drag, we agreed with that and approved that, and there will be a shared lateral for sewer and water. Land Development Commission Corporation wants to consolidate some of its properties. There are 5 vacant parcels that he wants to attach to and become part of the factory parcel, and wants all of the land to be assigned the M1 zoning. The commission voted to schedule a public hearing on that matter. That will come up in the future. Mr. Walker did not attend the planning commission meeting, but the commission decided that it would consider the matter anyhow. The members discussed it for a short time and agreed that this was not really the appropriate use for a vacant parcel on Fredonia Avenue. So we will once again address this with Mr. Watry when he's there at the next meeting, at the next commission meeting, and see if we can come to some kind of resolution.
This is where I want to comment on.
Yeah.
He called me up and about a year ago, Jimmy B has two contiguous lots next to each other. We approved that we can have auto sales on both lots. It's the same. Now, state statute, Ken Watford pointed out, say you have to have a building on the lot to sell vehicles. I don't know if contiguous lots means that you have to have a building on each lot, or just the lot can be treated as one as far as that goes, or maybe. So that's a question. Also, he wants to put a building on his lot, and if he could, he said, well, no electricity, no utilities. Doesn't understand the size of the building it has to be. There's some. The state becoming auto dealer, and he looked up and he said that Jimmy D's is not a licensed auto dealer. He found that on the state website. Where across the street is a licensed auto dealer. Okay. I don't know what the rules are of selling putting a car for sale, if it's one of the mechanics put it out. And they're licensed cars, where over here in his lot, those are not legally licensed cars. You're allowed to sell 5 vehicles per person per year that are legally licensed and titled to you. It can't be where you're swapping cars with other people and selling them. So, and this is the state laws that I have read and interpreted them. You know, with the adult living houses, we had to have a lawyer look in, they found national rules that override state rules, that override village rules. I think to prepare for the next meeting, we could probably have more research done on this property, on both the properties, to see whether Jimmy B's is okay the way he is, and whether what we could do about his property.
Well,
No, but this say that we have one car lot sitting there.
no. Well, we'll discuss this at more length when we get to the commission meeting. It might be all right if you can request permission from the board to have the lawyer address this in some fashion.
Yes, that's what
Okay.
I was getting to.
Would the consensus of the board be that that would be appropriate? Or do you want to make a formal motion for having a attorney give an opinion on that?
Is it already in the ordinances?
It's not clear enough.
The thing is, a conditional use is conditional because of the fact that it's an individual decision based on the conditions and things that have to do with exactly where it is. And the main thing that the planning commission had not a problem with, but their idea was that this just isn't the kind of place to sell cars. It's right adjacent to a residential area, and it's right within the gateway to our city. And it's just not the place to do it. And that would override pretty much anything else that he could say, well, you're doing this here and that there and that there, because none of that other stuff is in the gateway of our city next to a residential neighborhood. So that conditional use decision, being as individual as it is, I don't think can be messed with, so.
And I got a silly question, but I know Ken, and I like him and things like that, but you talked about building being on the premises. Does it mean it have to be on both, even though there are two different tax keys and things like this? But in that zoning there, can build a garage over a certain square footage, there's a shed, and all the time we're dealing with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just gonna drag on. Two adjacent lots that are under the same ownership can for some instances be considered basically the same lot. It's, so we'll get into this more at the planning commission, so maybe spend enough time on that.
So you don't want the answer before the plan commission.
Well,
I-
if we want to touch base with the attorney to see. To give the commission a level of comfort in how they want to deal with this, that's up to the board.
But if we're doing one for one and not for the other, that's where we're gonna have that problem.
Well, the other one is a totally different situation. It's an appropriate place for it to do it. And they're contiguous lots,
I get it,
and the
but-
public, the perception of the public that the whole thing is, it's his lot and. You know, it's a conditional use, so it's an individual decision.
I was just gonna say, if you're interested in an attorney's opinion prior to the planning commission, I'd be happy to investigate that with them, and then we can prepare a report for planning commission.
Okay,
That's fine.
is that, is the board approve of that?
It doesn't need to be motion.
mean,
We're
it's
doing
your-
this under report.
it's your
anyway. That's-
job.
Yep, that's why you asked me to do this.
Okay. All right, so then a motion is not necessary for that. Any other questions of the planning commission report? If not, I will move to Arkwood report, John Locke.
Met last night. Quite a busy agenda. First, we approved the fence from the corner of Fox Glen. There's an easement. The person, the whole back of the yard, there are easements for the we energy. And so this fence will work fine. Up on Emerald Hill Drive, there's a pie-shaped lot where people want to add a two-story addition to the back. I was concerned about the addition would be too close to the corner of the lot, and it turns out they're okay by about 6 feet. The house that burned down on North Wilson Street, they're going to do a complete tear out of the basement and build a new house, identical footing as the old one. We used to have Roger would review all of the civil information and make notes that the contractor has to follow, such as putting the silt fence and a tracking pad. And so we need an engineer to review that and give comments.
Just so
And then
the last page of your budget.
And then we could approve that. And then the Dollar General store for the architecture. The entrance is gonna be a corner facing the traffic lights. And they just wanted a canopy over 10 feet on each direction where it's a Dollar General. And then the long wall, which is like 100 feet long or something, 70 feet long, would just be plain 60 feet of it. And we asked them to put the canopy over the whole length. The part where the canopy is on the original drawing would be brick. We're requiring of brick of 50% of face of the building. And then the other part will be just sheet metal, same color as the brick. And cars will be parked in front of it, so it's not gonna stand out as much as it would have if we wouldn't have touched the canopy. And they seem good with that. That's all I have. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much. Hearing no questions, I will go on. Items for discussion and or action. Bruce, you have a question?
Well, I had a question about it.
Oh.
It's not about the face of the building or anything like that. It was more about infrastructure, intersections, sidewalks and all that kind of stuff. That was all went through before that, all this was approved and things like that. Traffic, you know, all the intersection. And it's a big deal. Have all that, you know, traffic going in and out of there. I just didn't know. We're just gonna put a building there and then figure out the driveway later, or how people are gonna be operating down there, coming out of Citgo, going to school, going in, coming off 57 back on 57, you know?
Well, it's been an operating building for many years.
No, it
Different-
hasn't.
different- Yes, it
Depends.
depends. Yeah, it was a restaurant, bar, it was a daycare.
No, I know, but that was 20 years.
Right. As far, if you're concerned about the semis backing in, they have a parking lot that's large enough so they can do a turnaround in the internal parking lot. They won't have to be on Begonia Avenue back in.
It's awesome. The neighbor and everything, so right with, how-
He was at the meeting.
Driveway.
Yes,
Okay. So I got.
he's signing some document with them about the shared driveway.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see that you had a question.
That's all right.
Okay. Okay, if we're all set with that, then we will move to item 7 for discussion and action items. The first item, item A, is a motion to approve the 2023 capital improvement projects. Do I have a motion to bring that to the table?
Well, you don't need a motion to bring to the table, but you can entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Okay. So what we're doing from now on is we're copying basic Robert's rules and going more formal with the board proceeding. In order to discuss an item, it has to be brought to the floor by a motion to approve. And then we discussed and then we dispensed with the motion either up or down, or amend or whatever, so. If we are in order to have a motion to approve the capital improvements project list.
Make a motion for the 2023 capital improvement project.
Second. We have a second? Okay. We have a second. Okay, now discussion.
I can start off with a summary here.
Mhm.
So the very last page of your budget is the proposed CIP list. There's nothing, pretty much when you look at the columns, you see a 5-year outlook. Anything 24 and beyond is certainly not set in stone. It's going to change every year as different things come up. Really, the only thing that you're truly approving is what projects would you like us to do in 2023? These items have gone through the finance committee, and they were recommended for approval. You'll see in the funds allocated section, there's some that are capital funds and then some that are split up between sewer and water. So when you're talking about which projects you want to do and which ones you don't, I would not look at the sewer and water ones. Those are ones that we need to do. The ones that are up for grab are under the capital fund, and these equate to 142,000 of capital expenses. So to go through those very briefly, you have 12,000 for parks lawnmower attachments. You have 75,000 for Meadowbrook and Wheeler culverts. You have 20,000 for a frame repair for the 1997 GMC lift truck. And then you have 35,000 for the upgrade to the ferric system. I'll just touch quickly that the ferric system, while it is a sewer cost, it's getting run through the capital fund and then getting transferred under the auspices of the sewer fund. The only other item that you guys really could discuss as well is use of ARPA funds. What on here is the splash pad. It's quoted as 200,000 as an estimated project cost. The proposal is to use 100,000 of ARPA funds to do the splash pad and then fundraise for the remaining portion of those costs. So that's my update, and you guys can discuss as you wish.
Yes.
I would question, the splash pad, especially right now with the taxes and increase. That we're gonna be looking at, the infrastructure that we may be looking at over in our TID district. That could satisfy a lot of interest. And maybe it's not the right time to splash pad, but that's the way I feel. I mean, it's 100 grand, estimated 200.
To be clear, these are ARPA funds, not coming from the general levy, not coming from taxes.
Understood, it's supposed to be used for infrastructure, though.
Coming from the property tax.
They're supposed to be used for infrastructure.
But in
I may be wrong, but I don't believe we can add them to the project as well.
Correct. We debated to death, it seems like, for over a year on where we wanted to put these ARPA funds. It wasn't enough to do a road project. It wasn't enough to do a water main project. It wasn't enough to fund a lot of things that we were talking about and where we could put them. And I would think Rick is correct. We can't use it for the TID project. So we discussed this to death about where is the best place to put these funds, and unfortunately, the amount that we've got won't even cover a road project, so.
Is that true? Chris?
We have, like,
ARPA funds not being able to satisfy any kind of infrastructure in that, city district.
Not the direct infrastructure, but you and I had talked about the engineering plans, right? That I'm not sure. I would have to look into that, to see if that's eligible or not. Because while it doesn't,
You know?
yep, but I understand.
We also saw this as a unique opportunity. This is a windfall. This isn't coming directly, yes, it's coming out of everybody's pocket, not directly out of the homeowner's pockets. This is a unique opportunity to provide something that has been being asked for by the public for several years now. There's a informal survey done on a local Facebook group, and there's a lot of positive response, asking for it. So this is, in the past, we weren't able to put this kind of expenditure out just with our general revenue. But with this windfall, we thought maybe this is time to just do something nice and maybe fun for the public. Something that we can enjoy, something that we normally wouldn't be able to do.
When I first heard this, I tended to fall along the line of what Bruce is saying. Then I was influenced by the same argument that you just made. It's kind of like a wish list item that we would never really do if we had to use levy funds, because that's dedicated to a lot of other things. So this was found money. It was money we didn't ask for. It's not a grant we applied for. This is just money that they shoved in our face and said, here's ARPA funds, do something. And they gave us a list.
We're paying it back.
No, we don't have
Pay
to.
that. Yes, we are going to pay it back, either in federal tax or whatever.
Well, yeah, but if, it's the old saying, if we don't use it, they will give it to someone else and we'll be paying it back for someone else's benefit and not ours. So I go along with this. The village needs something that is kind of a wish list item that will satisfy a lot of kids and things. Now, when we can afford to do it with this found money rather than try and squeeze something out of a budget, I think this is a good thing to do.
One more thing. I sit on a board with, Dan. And, when we come up with projects and stuff like that, it seems like, holy cow, it's hard for people, donating things like that. And things are tough. That's how I picture it. They're doing a lot of good things in public works, with Parks and Rec. With down at the park and down the big park down in Wabadonia, things are going good that way. I'm just kind of hesitant on this fact. I'm sorry. It'd be great, even if my kids were small, I don't think that kind of money we want to spend on this. And we gotta find something for building the community, maybe better sidewalks here or there, even if you can imagine here and there. Stuff like that.
And my only rebuttal or kind of comment to that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is, when we say long-term things and things that are going to impact the community more, like having a sidewalk or infrastructure and things like that, I truly believe, you know, from talking to so many people that we've talked to the last few years and asking people what, you know, what they would like to see in the community. A lot of it is, hey, we'd like to have a place where we can come together. And, you know, what can we do that way? So you know, the whole reason why I envisioned this splash pad thing is again, because these ARPA funds are something, as Don and some other people were saying, they're not gonna come to us ever again, right? I mean, it's money that was kind of just dropped on us by the government, for better or for worse. But I look at it as an investment into what could happen in the future. You know, it's not just a splash pad. You put a splash pad in, you have people that are gonna be there, you have kids that are gonna be there. Then maybe you can get food trucks that'll be there, or something else to bring there to kind of, you know, bring in more vendors and things like that. So it is, while I understand, and I truly do understand, it's a hard thing to think about, but while I understand the, you know, the notion of sidewalks and other infrastructure, I think this is a long-term thing. And I think it's something that might last longer than even those sidewalks might if, you know, if they had to be built and rebuilt again. So that's all. And I apologize, I have no voice. Not real great.
If I could, we can sit and debate each and every item on this list tonight, but it's nothing more than a roadmap. All of these items need to be approved or stopped by
Yeah.
either
Well,
this
they're
board
budgeted.
or a future board. Moving forward, this is nothing more than placeholder.
All right, any other discussion on the splash pad or any of the other items on the list?
Yes, I have other items I mentioned at the last meeting.
Okay,
The Highland Drive sidewalk is shown in 2025. That would go past the bank going toward Dollar General. The price on here is double because the banks would pay half of it. This was in 2020 dollars and the village cost then would be 5,400. Now, the price of concrete would possibly gone up, but I think that could be moved to next year to make it easy to walk the Dollar General and stuff. The marshal's office roof, as we talked about last time, and I showed a picture of the back wall that's failing. And the roof over the well house leaks. And it's set for 2025 maintenance. And also in the basement of that building are village records, and I think this is the police store stuff down there too, and it gets wet.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just real briefly, just so I understand here, I mean, there's a motion and a second on the table to approve the 2023 capital improvement projects. Not anything further than 2023 at this point. We know what other issues we've got and where they're at, but I think, I mean, we got a motion and a second just for 2023 projects.
I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we talked to Brandon last time at the meeting, and he said, get the road fixed, get it fixed, so that we don't have all that crap. Rain running in the basement.
Yeah, and I think my comment then was, I don't know if does that have to be a capital budget? Do we have to, you know?
I mean, isn't there an emergency, anything?
Well, that's what I was gonna
Save,
refer to Chris.
that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it depends if the ask is like a quick patch for one leak or a completely new roof. This price that's listed here is for a completely new roof, but if we can do patching in the meantime, to give us those 2 years, then that's what I would recommend. Yes.
and we could hold that spot in 25 for the recommended. If we can get there without
Right,
further deterioration.
but I thought Dan said, what's the budget? Get it fixed. I
Yeah,
remember
get
you
the
saying,
estimate.
Yeah, point of order, go back to my question, original question was asked, there's a motion and a second on the table for the 2023 capital improvement projects, is there not?
This is the first time we could discuss what they were. And I disagree with some of them not being in 2023.
Okay. You have anything else? to
Yeah.
Okay.
There are more sidewalks that we were planned at one time to do in 2020. On North Milwaukee Street, on Meadowbrook Drive and Fillmore. And then we also don't have anywhere on here, the security camera to be budgeted in future years. They're maybe not done in 2023, but they're not going there on future list either. And well, at least they should be on the list so that when I'm not on the board, you guys know about them.
Correct, I dropped the ball on public safety for that, because I was talking actually to Rick before the meeting about those cameras, and I don't have it on my stuff, so, thank you.
And I would disagree with you, John, when you say that this is the first time that you've had a chance to talk about this. We did hold meetings to discuss capital projects and budget prior to, like we always do every year, we have budget meetings, to talk about, what to put on the budget. And there wasn't a whole lot of attendance.
Well, I did not attend. But some of this information was out there from previous years. And I thought it'd be on there and I could comment on it at this time.
Some of the lower budget items, lower dollar amount items could be considered in a maintenance type situation rather than in a capital budget. And I think you brought that point up too when we were talking about some of this, the lower dollar amount thing, that they could be considered a maintenance type project, like the roof over the firehouse
Sure.
door and
Yep.
stuff like that,
Yep.
so. Yeah, will do also another reason why it's capital.
It is on the capital.
Yeah. The whole roof is there.
Yeah.
So to both trustee Haas and trustee Long's point, if you would like to make a recommendation to move one of those items to 2023, you're welcome to do that. But I'm telling you, I'm telling you from a budget standpoint, you have 142,000 to spend. So then if you're going to move something from there, then you're going to kick something off that list.
We can make adjustments to it during the year also, based on current situation. So this is our plan. This is what we would like to do.
And I did write down security cameras. I got that noted. So we'll add that on the list.
Yeah, coming up with this list of your job. And conjunction with public works. Do you have anything else? Then? The gap sidewalks, we were falling behind that schedule pretty much. And that was and it's been thing too. We've run out of things that came up. We can't do that. All right, does anyone have anything else to bring to the board, yes? Well, if not, I will wait for trustee Bruce to come up and I will call for a vote. So all those in favor of approving the list, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, one nay, and ayes have it as a majority. Thank you very much. Now, B, we have motion to approve resolution 2022J, adopting the Village of Peonia 2023 levy. We have that resolution on our tablet. Yeah. So the levy is 1,109,802 is the budgeted proposed levy. Union mill rate on that is 6.52, right?
Whatever I said earlier.
It was 131 of more than what last year was. And it's 531, so it's 662.
It's 652.
650. Yeah, the numbers in the press were just slightly off. That was before the last revision.
Motion.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the levy?
Motion to approve resolution number 2022.
Okay, I have a motion.
We'll second it.
And I have a second. All those in favor?
We're gonna discuss. Probably gonna discuss. right?
Yeah, discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Not used to doing it this way.
So I just want to make a couple of comments here. For as long as I've been a resident here, I've constantly had people telling me or seeing posts on different things. Why isn't the grass cut? Why can't we do this? Why can't we have these? Why isn't this getting done? Even today, Ronnie Wapka speaks, there was a comment, Rudy, as he was saying, we had some information on there regarding you know, the increase and all that stuff. And one of the people said, well, the shade structure is not even down yet. So, you know, that's gonna have to get replaced and things like that too. That's the direct result of two things. One, the weather. That got crappy really fast. And two, the fact that Public Works has been struggling to finish their stuff because they are short-staffed and they don't have enough people. So when we talk about, on one hand, how much it sucks to raise taxes, which I agree with. It sucks to raise taxes, and I don't want to be having, you know, even think about these things, but we are, here we are. We have to decide. Do we want to add positions to increase the services and increase the overall quality of life here for people in Fredonia? Or do we want to keep going in the status quo where we're complaining about things, Veterans Day, you know, flags not getting down, they're getting torn up, stuff like that, overflowing garbage at the parks, weeds in the streets. And those are just some of them. And overall, our public works people do a really, really good job. But we have had some issues. We've had some issues keeping people. We've had some issues trying to get through daily work. So I think a lot, and if you look at this, a lot of these expenses are going to adding staff to make it a better place to live and to add services throughout the village. So I would say, you know, the old saying was can't have your cake and eat it too, right? We have to decide what we're gonna do. We have to decide if we're going to move forward with something where it might be painful to rip off the Band-Aid and say, we've got to do this. Or we take a step back and we say, okay, what comes next? That's all I have to say.
I would also echo, I mean, I think everyone here, I mean, no one wants to see taxes go up. And that's just a pure fact. We don't like it either, any more than anyone else does, honestly. But I mean, if we look around kind of what's happened in this world in the past 2 years with everything going on, I mean, the county got $17.3 million of ARPA funds. The state got over $1 billion of ARPA funds, 2.3 million of that went to buying the Cedar Gorge Bluff. That's not infrastructure. That's not helping people afford groceries, put gas in their tank. It's a sad reality now where there's even discussions of the school. They just had a referendum in 2018, looking at doing another referendum potentially. I mean, it's been an unusual, I haven't been on the board, I guess, that long, only since 2018, but since 2020, it's been a very unusual world for everybody. And I agree with Dan. I mean, this board has accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. I mean, we're working on a business park now that we're getting a lot of interest in. You know, we had that subdivision working on going to north of the town, that's kind of stalled. But I mean, we're even during a global pandemic, that has all happened. So to come as far as we have and being able to, Dan said, I echo what he said. I mean, we need, you know, we need the services. We need people that answer the phone. We need people that can, you know, get this stuff done. Like I just got done telling someone, I had my son who was 10 months old, had a choking incident here a couple of weeks ago. We had to call the ambulance. I'm glad they showed up. So when I paid my tax bill, I'm glad they were there in less than 3 minutes. I don't like doing this stuff either. I know it affects people. But the one thing, another shiny thing that I don't think gets mentioned enough either, water rates aren't going up, sewer rates aren't going up. Port Washington's water rates are going up 33%. That seems to get overlooked amongst everything else. So I do think as much as it hurts that this is going up, it could be taxes going up, water rates going up, sewer rates going up, water rates aren't going up, sewer rates aren't going up. Unfortunately, taxes are going up, and in a world that with gas at $4 a gallon, inflation going up over 9%. This is just a reality that we live in, and we are trying to maintain that standard and kind of, and still move the village forward. So we pay taxes here just like everyone else does, so it's not an easy thing to do, but just to kind of give an overview of kind of, like I said, everyone's seen what's been going on, but just kind of where we're at. It's not an easy decision, but it's something that we got to do.
I agree, and just to add on to that point, every one of us trustees, we are property owners here in the village. I didn't make a motion to raise your taxes. I just made a motion to raise our taxes. You know,
Very well said.
so it's gonna hit us just like everybody else. It was a very, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure I can. Put a lot of thought into this. It's, you know, not an easy thing to do. But I think in the long run, it's going to be good.
So you got things.
I was just gonna say, all the board members here, I mean, when they do their job, they're working. They get paid $55, I think it is, for this 2-hour meeting or whatever it's gonna end up being. But during the week, they're in the office, they're on the phone, calling. They don't think they're very much. They're doing their job as a public servant. And that's important to know.
All right, any other comments? We've all had an opportunity and whatever. If we are ready for a vote, I will call the question to approve the resolution 2022J adopting the Fredonia 2023 levy. Or no, we're at the end, the 2023 annual budget. So all those in favor,
We're at the levy.
we're at the levy first?
If I could just ask you, you have a motion and second, there was a question from the audience to do a roll call vote. So I just want to ask if you would like to entertain that.
For the levy or
Correct.
for the budget itself?
I think his
We could
question,
do
his
both.
question was about the rate, setting the rate, and that's what you'll be doing with the levy.
Okay. So, all right, this, I put the check on too soon. This is what we're on then. The levy. Okay, all those in favor of the 2023 levy signify by saying aye.
We don't have to do a roll call. It'll be tallied in the notes who voted nay and who voted.
Mhm.
The roll call vote is highly necessary.
Yeah, it's likely to be unanimous anyhow, so. If it's not, we will record who did not vote in the majority. That's how the board does it, the county board does that. Which is similar to a roll call. So all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? I will call the motion passed unanimously. Okay. Now we're on C. I'm not going to check there, because screwed up again. A motion to approve the Village of Fredonia 2023 annual budget as presented.
Motion to approve 23 budget as presented. I'll throw my phone in a second.
Do I have a motion and a second?
Stay in the car. Stay in.
Okay, discussion. Much of which might be redundant, but is there any discussion?
I was gonna take a moment to thank Melissa. This was a labor of love, our budget process, and maybe not her favorite thing in the world, and she put up a lot with a lot as I was asking various questions, different information. So huge thank you to her. Thank you to Wendy Unger, who's our rep with Baker Tilly. She spent a lot of time going through our budget process with us as well. So thank you to those ladies that helped make this happen.
Okay, any questions, any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call the question. Those who are in favor of the Fredonia 2023 annual budget as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, next we have a motion to approve the sub-recipient agreement between Ozaukee County and the Village of Fredonia as recommended by Attorney Michael Herband. That entire thing is in your packet. About 30 sheets. Went through it. Discussion. Oh, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agreement between Ozaukee County and the Village of Fredonia.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. This is the agreement governing the acceptance and use of the grant funds for the EMTs and paramedics. Paramedics, not paramedics.
Yes, I don't understand why.
We don't have a motion, not on the table yet. We have a motion. Okay, discussion. I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
No.
I don't understand why the funds and expenses are not shown as part of the village budget. It just. Somebody has to show that, don't they? How's it gonna get reported?
They're essentially pass-through funds, they're sequestered in their own account.
Right,
And when bills come in, that should be drawn against this fund. They will come from that fund.
right.
And the minutes will reflect that money coming from, fund or whatever. I don't know if that was a requirement from the grant or if that was just a suggestion or something that we wanted to do. I think that was something mainly that Brian wanted to do, to keep those grant funds separated. So it'd be easier to report, because we got federal audits and stuff.
Correct. And
To report on these.
it's gotta be reported to the county as well. So yeah, that's why it's separate. That's why.
Right, otherwise they have to audit the whole budget and this and that, so. So that's why that is.
But
There will be an accounting for all of it, but it will be a separate accounting
one
with segregated money.
the village staff and auditors. You're reviewing this and there's gonna be a cost for that?
Yes, yes. And it will be more expedient to do it if it's sequestered and a separate accounting. Because it's a federal audit that will require, it's a more extensive audit than just our normal end of the year audit. Because they have to be turned over to the county, so they can report things. Federal audits are expensive. I don't know, have we had any of those recently? We have, and it's better if everything is separated and you just, it's all right here and they look good.
Just to clarify, I think what trustee Haas was saying is correct, that the bookkeeping piece of it is handled through the county. So they're the ones it's their money, they're the ones who are executing the payments and taking care of all of that. To trustee Long's point, though, we do need to be cognizant of these costs. Because as I believe was brought up in public comments, after the 3 years is done, unless the county has a new plan in place, then those costs then do fall onto the village. So I could see the argument for having a notation in the budget that it's happening. But at the same piece, that bookkeeping piece is done through the county, as far as I understand.
Yeah, we'll be aiding in the county audit too by feeding them numbers.
They have to.
Yeah, so it's all around, it's a better way to do. We can have an extensive accounting of that particular column or whatever you want to call it.
But again, I think we're getting a little off track here because what that goes towards, I mean, that's Waukesha, that's Fredonia, that's
Mhm.
Belgium, that's all the northern parts.
Yeah.
All that check got written, that's for all, that's not just for.
Yeah, so all four of us will be reporting numbers to the county. so
That's
that
why
they
it's
can-
all separate, it doesn't show,
Yeah.
up. So it's all gotta be taken and looked at by the county, make sure every penny is accounted for, that was given out.
Yeah, so everything that's spent out of that will be accounted for.
The town's money is going to the county, and then the county is paying the village employee.
As far as I understand. Unless it's up.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of accounting to do. The county will be giving the town money to pay to us to help subsidize the paramedic. Or to whatever.
That's why this merger thing, that's why they're working on what they're working on.
That's why there's like 40 pages to the agreement.
Correct.
All right, is there any discussion? Any more discussion? I can see where that can be someone on some. Because there's not numbers that you can look at for yourself and track them. But we will get a report back in time so we can track those. So any other questions on this? If it's all right with the board, I will call the question. All those in favor of approving the subrecipient agreement between Ozaukee County and the village, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried once again unanimously. Okay, E, motion to approve fire protection services agreement between the village of Stockville and the village of Fredonia Fire Department.
If you don't mind reading off E, F, and G, and then I can take care of explaining all of them at the same time.
Okay, well, F is in there too.
Yep.
It's the agreement between the town of Belgium and the village of Fredonia. And G is between the village of Belgium and the village of Fredonia. And they all have to do with,
Oh, sure. So the fire chief apologizes he couldn't be here, so he asked me to deliver his explanation here. So these are all of your intergovernmental agreements with neighboring municipalities for coverage for service. For the agreements for Saukville, it covers approximately 5 square miles of area south of the village of Fredonia. The contract's for 1 year and the dollar amount remains the same as the previous year. For the town of Belgium, this is a 3-year agreement that's been in place for the first time back in January 2020. So it's up for renewal this January. It puts in place to supplement the full-time EMT salary. This contract specifically is based on a dollar amount, based on call volume. So he has a breakdown here that I won't get into, but the long story short is that it increases to $4,800 from the previous $3,750, so about $1,000 increase in income. And then on the Village of Belgium side, it's another 3-year agreement that was started back in 2020, up for renewal in 2023, also based on the call volume. And this is going from 18,000 in the previous year to 21,600. So your fire chief is recommendation on all 3.
okay, so the mover can combine all 3 of these and we can act upon them together. They're all the same thing, basically.
Motion to approve all 3 fire protection services agreements. One between the village of Saukville and the village of Fredonia. Also between the town of Belgium, the village of Fredonia, and the village of Belgium.
Second.
And we have a second? Okay, discussion. I remember this. Okay, hearing none, this is very plain. I will, with the permission of the board, I will call the question. All those in favor of these three agreements, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carried unanimously. Number, letter H, motion to approve request to carry over unspent 2022 funds of operating budget towards the future squad purchase. This was a request by our village marshal that we would do this for him, so
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, I will call a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. At this time, we are in order to convene in the closed session pursuant to statute 19.85(1)(e). Deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public property, investing in public funds, and conducting other specified public business where competitive bargaining reasons require closed session. That's relating to TID District 3, contract negotiations.
I was gonna recommend that we take item 11 first.
You want to do 11 first?
Some certain personnel here that are here for
Right.
11, and not necessarily for 8.
Yeah, we can do either one first. Well, if the person is here and we want to, get them. Okay,
So then in practice, you'd actually be moving 11, 12, 13, and 14 prior, because those all are together.
so if there's no objection, I will move 11, 12, 13, and 14 before number 8. Hearing no objection, we are in order to convene in the closed session pursuant to 1985(1)(c).
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a roll call vote. I will start with Dan.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a unanimous affirmative vote. We are in closed session.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
And you're invited back if you want to come back for the other closed session. All right, is she back on now? You're putting the recorder back on? We are live.
Okay.
All right, is he there? Okay. All right. Point number 13, approval of DPW superintendent, which will actually be Public Works Director.
So you can just make a motion to approve Mr. Paulus as discussed in closed session.
Yep, I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, as discussed in closed session. All those in favor, or discussion? No discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Welcome aboard.
Can't leave now.
All right, charter ordinance. Eliminating the consolidated clerk treasurer position and establishing separate positions for village clerk and village treasurer.
I'll make that motion as well.
Okay, I have a motion and a second discussion. Do we have any discussion? Are we ready for a vote? Okay, I will call that question. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion carried unanimously. Next we have point number 8. Yeah, we go back to point number 8. And that is going to close session for statute 19.85(1)(e).
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I will,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will start on this side again.
I don't say my name. I. I.
Aye. Okay, everybody voting.
Proceed as discussed in closed session.
Well, second.
All right. In a second, to proceed as discussed in closed session. Any questions? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, it's passed unanimously. Next, we have correspondence. Any correspondence? No? Okay, items for future consideration.
At the village board meeting, Rob Brooks is going to be here. And I talked to Melissa, we're gonna send a letter out to everybody on North Wilson Street and at the ends of the streets,
Notification.
including Dewey Strobel's letter, Fulton Pines letter. Just letting them know, and this will go to all the homeowners too.
Refreshing their memory.
So if they wish to attend, these are opportunities.
Someone's in, something else or something else. Otherwise, I was gonna say something cool, I guess. But I guess we don't also have anything else to say. I just, like I said, I wanted to let everyone know. I mean, I know we had some people here tonight that obviously voiced their concerns, and that's great to see. Like I said, we're not gonna, what we do here is not gonna make everyone happy, but I'll tell you right now, the work that this crew has done here. I mean, 6 months ago, I didn't even know how we were gonna get through all this. So I credit everyone on this board. I mean, like like Bruce said, I mean, the extra work that everyone puts in here, do this, and the people that we brought on board, I think we do deserve to give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back for the work that we did, because I said, we look at this 6 months ago, it was like, wow, I don't know how we're gonna get this all done, and we pulled it all together, and we pulled together as a group and got it done, so I appreciate everybody that I've got to serve with on this board, and look forward to continuing, so great job, everyone, honestly.
Yeah, our back was up against the wall. So, alrighty. Thanks for mentioning that. Any other new items for future? If not, we are in order to adjourn. Don't know how that went. Just pick two people. Yeah, Joshua and Bill. How's that? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
I agree with Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a lot done.
Good job, gentlemen. Good.
Yes, very good, very, very good.